we go. Jake and Josh are here to analyze the game they love for the team they love. This is another Dolphins podcast. Here's your host, Jake Mendel and Josh Houtz.
The Dolphins weren't going to go 17-0, and we still have to go to work on Monday. Welcome into another edition of another Dolphins podcast. It is no longer a victory Monday as the Miami Dolphins got stomped by the Buffalo Bills 48-20, and we are here to give a little bit of I'll say overreaction, but hopefully a modest overreaction of everything that happened in Sunday's game. But before I get into any action, any conversation, I got to pull Joshua Houtz out here on stage. Joshua, like I said, man, ain't going to go 17-0 this year.
No, we hoped we were, but let's be honest, man. These Mondays after a loss like that, they really hurt, right? I mean, it kind of sucked today waking up and remembering that butt whooping that we got, but we'll try to talk ourselves through it and tell you why, it isn't the end of the world, but man, you wanted a better performance against Buffalo. So someone stopped me at the store and they were asking me, say, have a good week. And I was like, the Dolphins play the Bills. If they win, that's going to dictate my entire week. So I'm here. I'm emo. I look like Jimmy Butler. That's how I'm feeling inside.
See, the thing is, my big gripe, Joshua, going so Dolphins, there's a lot of people out there who merely adopted going so Dolphins, right? Oh, Jalen Waddle drops a pass. Oh, what was it like before Tyreek Hill? We have been molded by disappointing Dolphin loss after disappointing Dolphin loss. And don't get me wrong, losing by 28 points to the Bills absolutely sucks. This game, we can look back in 2 weeks and we'll completely forget about it. I look at it like the Bengals game last year, that stretch, they lost to the Jets. They lost to the Jets last year. I'm not ready to I'm disappointed, don't get me wrong. But for everybody who's going off the handle, it's time to fire people. Don't worry, we got darker days coming. It's coming, don't you worry.
Oh, man. Now, you were getting me hopeful there for a second. Then you just let me down again. I guess that's what this team does, though, right? I mean, we all kind of sat here and we joked, you and I were even talking about all the times they were 3-0 and you felt like confident going into those, or I guess not so confident. It just felt different going into this one. So I think that's why it hurts a little bit that they did get shellacked. But like you mentioned, Jake, I mean, they're still 3-1 at this point. A lot of people, if you take the home round of your predictions, maybe you thought 3-1 at this point, but most likely 2-2, right? So the Dolphins are still on the path they expected, and I'm kind of glad they're getting this out of the way, right? Because you had to feel pretty awesome and confident after that 70-point that you just put up last week, and that absolutely convincing win, and then to come back and be let down a little bit. And now you have that sour taste in your mouth. Now you have something to build on. So it definitely sucks. It's against the Bills after how hopeful we were heading into this week, but like you mentioned, man, darker days are still to come.
What would you call yesterday's outing if you had to put a headline for it? Because the first thing I did about midway through the third quarter, I wrote down what I wanted the headline of this podcast to be. But you also came out with your own idea of how yesterday's game went. Dude, the way I look at it, the Buffalo Bills brought the Miami Dolphins up on stage in front of the entire class and pantsed them. Just dropped the pants. Hey, everyone, the polka dots are out. Let's make fun of this guy. That's what it looked like, because for everything that the Miami Dolphins have done right, listen, they're leading the league in points. Tua's been awesome. This defense is going to get better. But the Bills took them on stage and pointed at every single wart this Dolphins team had. So, man, that's why I think the Bills just flat out pants to the Dolphins, and the rest of the league is stuck laughing at us.
Did you just call Liam Eichenberg a buttwort? That's how I translated that. Yeah, well, mine can't even compete with that. I already like yours better. I was just during the game, I even wrote it down before I went to bed after, drinking a little bit more, trying to forget about our sorrows. I put down the Dolphins got murked by the Bills. So I had to make sure I looked up the word murk to make sure in my head it actually meant how I've been using it for like the last decade, because I don't know where I, got that in my vocabulary. But
Call of Duty for sure. I'll tell you right now, you were playing some Call of Duty inside.
Yeah, I was pretty buns in Call of Duty. But yeah, so that was mine. But no, the pants, whatever you want to go with, we just won't be calling anybody butt warts. But I know what you're saying, Jake. It was embarrassing. It really was.
And I think the biggest issue, Josh, and let's get into it. Let's start about the offense. And it's nice because the offense does have a super positive note that we're going to spend a lot of time talking about here. But early in the game, right? Let me just bring up the drive charts real quick here, right? This game just started on fire. The Bills, an 8-play touchdown drive. Miami followed with a 7-play touchdown drive of their own that was capped off by a Devon 8-chain 3-yard run. Tyreek Hill had a 19-yard reception on that drive. Jalen Waddle played a little volleyball, and he caught a pass on that drive. Bills responded with a 10-play touchdown drive. Miami answered again, another Devon Achane touchdown, this one from 10 yards out. And Josh, before we get into anything real specific, what was your reaction when the score is sitting there 14-14? Because it did seem like the Dolphins were walking on the thinnest tightrope ever. And you knew just one error, one Tua ball into someone's gut, something like that would derail the entire game. But what was the reaction to seeing those first couple punches?
Yeah, I mean, it was nice to see them going back and forth, I guess. I mean, at least Miami going down there and scoring and, answering and making it a tie game. But I was just like, this is not how we wanted to play this game, right? You don't want to be going into a shootout with Josh Allen in their home, in Orchard Park, despite, how, prepared you thought you were. So I was just like, where's this defense, man? And I was a huge advocate for Vic Fangio. We'll talk about this more throughout the podcast and, maybe point our fingers at whomever. But I expected more out of this defense heading into this year. We were even on the pods talking about how top 10, even top 5. I mean, they've been a disappointment. So, yeah, I'm sitting there and I'm just thinking, someone step up and do something.
And that's what we were all really waiting for. And someone did step up and do something, man. And it was just Josh Allen over and over and over again. He went 21 of 25 for 320 yards, 13 yards attempt for touchdowns, sacked twice. And look at us. We are flipping. We are actually starting on the defense. Amazing how that little flop happened. So the Dolphins were without a pair of Jalen's. And I think that was a huge difference maker. The Dolphins just couldn't do anything to stop Josh Allen in this offense. And Josh, I mean, we said it before, like we like to joke. We had fun poking at the Bills, right? They beat up on some rough teams. When Josh Allen is playing like that, when he sits in the pocket and he doesn't have that timer going off of someone's about to eat my soul, he can just pick your entire defense apart and look really good doing it because, man, I mean, Stefon Diggs' performance, 6 receptions, 120 yards. I mean, it was just let Josh Allen cook all day, and Miami just had no answers.
Yeah, my bad if I took us in a whole different direction. I just went on a rant there and don't even know if I answered your question, to be honest. But yeah, man, Josh Allen picked us apart and we were getting no pass rush at all, right? Outside of Andrew Van Ginkel, who, you got to give him credit. I've written down Ginkel, where's he at? Either way, 5 total tackles, right? 2 sacks, 3 tackles for a loss, a QB hit. I mean, he looked like the only guy out there that was like truly, busting his ass. I mean, they were running the ball effectively when they needed to. I've written down that Josh Allen had 4 carries for 17 yards, but it was mostly that passing game. And I love Cater Kohu. You love Cater Kohu. We love, the Darth Cater nickname that we've come up with. We loved what he did as a rookie, but let's be honest, man, having him on Stefon Diggs that entire game, he kind of got a little bit cooked out there. And you just wonder why, we heard Vic Fangio say, that's not something I'm willing to do right now, or, wasn't really interested in doing right now. I don't know if Xavier Howard's washed. I mean, Omar Kelly says that he's, contains Tyreek Hill in practice, right? If you can do that, I mean, you would expect him to be able to at least do something out there against Stefon Diggs. So I would have liked to see them at least try to adapt there a little bit. But overall, man, that defense just was a big letdown. And we talked about in the preview pod, man, you had to get pressure and they just were getting no pressure at all.
Yeah, so Cater Kohu, he was targeted 5 times in coverage. He had 4 receptions. 101 yards in total, so that's 25 yards per reception, 2 touchdowns along of 55, which is ugly. So let's.
Was there a penalty too, right? Wasn't there like a 45-yard penalty?
There was a 45-yard.
That could go either way, I think.
That was a very tough penalty. I think that it's so frustrating because there are penalties and then there's he should have turned his head, otherwise
that's all it was, right? He just didn't turn his head, right? That was the only reason he got penalized.
Which is so that doesn't impact. Like, I understand there are scenarios where someone's like running like this in front of a guy and like they're literally right behind the guy trailing them. They see the receiver turn their head and they just start waving their hands, maybe pulling at them a little bit. I didn't necessarily see Cater Kohu doing that. So that's where my frustration starts with that. But man, like this entire idea, right? Oh, let's just have Xavier Howard shadow Stefon Diggs. Let's just have Deion Jordan cover Gronk. It's so easy to come out here and say these, possibilities and think, yes, things will be different. It's not always that simple. I don't think I can sit here and just say, yeah, Vic Fangio has 41 years of experience coaching defenses, and he didn't just think, let's take Xavier Howard and have him shadow Stefon Diggs. There's a bigger issue here, man. And if you don't want to look too far, let's talk David Long Jr. He was targeted 4 times in coverage, 90 yards. 4 completions, and a touchdown. I'll tell you right now, no matter who was covering Stefon Diggs, they had a plan to get him open. And I think more bothersome than actually just leaving Kohu over there, leaving them where they're comfortable. I get it. What bothers me, man, is we know what his weakness is. We were always paranoid about him throwing the ball deep, quarterbacks throwing the ball deep, Kader Kohou getting nervous, and the pass interference. What we weren't worried about is a cornerback who can't tackle. And what we saw on Sunday was Kader Kohou's biggest strength, just being able to, okay, the receiver's going to catch the ball. I'll tackle him for a 6-yard game. We'll live for another day. Kader Kohou, Joshua, out of his 4 tackle attempts, he had that one miss, and it led to that Stefon Diggs 60-yard touchdown. So everything we knew about Kader Kohou, or thought we knew, just kind of flipped on its head on Sunday.
Yeah, and I mean, to your point, man, you don't know what Vic Fangio went in there and what he was trying to mask out there, right? I mean, this defense just was in over their head a little bit, but you're right, man. It's just crazy to think about how this defense has looked. And you mentioned the missed tackles. Everybody, everyone's to blame for that. This was arguably, I mean, Brandon Jones got a lot of work out there, and he was missing tackles. I mean, this seemed like I don't want to say he shouldn't have been out there yet, but I just wish that it was Deshaun Elliott. I mean, I think that defense would have looked a little bit different. Even Javon Holland at times was missing tackles. So it was just a bad day all around. And again, I think it's going to humble a lot of these guys. But when you're looking to, some of these guys are looking for new deals. Some of these guys just got paid like a Bradley Chubb. You want them to step up in these moments. And I mean, you mentioned the linebacking unit, man. We're still worried about that linebacking unit. It's been like a decade. Jerome Baker, he looked a little bit lost out there, right? I mean, he looked lost. David Long, who, you're all showing highlights of what he could do. I mean, he has been a disappointment as well. So we need someone to step up. So I don't think it's all Vic Fangio. I think, it has a lot to do with the personnel out there. Maybe they're not quite comfortable yet in this system, but you're a week 4 against the Buffalo Bills. You want to prove to the world that you belonged. And unfortunately, we kind of did the opposite.
Now, there is something to a home field advantage. And I really don't want to completely make excuses here, because I'm just going to read these tackling grades. Kader Kohou had a 23. Duke Riley had a 23. David Long Jr. had a 38. Brandon Jones, a 28. Javon Holland, a 45. When you consider that 70 is average, just think about that. Those were the guys in the middle of the field. Yes, we can talk about Kader Kohou, but when your guys who are covering the middle of the field can't come up and make a tackle, I mean, everyone's going to run wild no matter what. Everyone just wants to go to the Xavier Howard shadowing Stefon Diggs, and I really don't think it's simple. Maybe does Stefon Diggs not score 3 touchdowns? Sure. I don't think it changes too much. And then you have X coming out and saying, it's the competitor. I wish I could have shadowed him. Every professional athlete's going to say that. Every professional athlete wants the best challenge possible to prove they're the best. You can't expect X to say anything else, but I don't think you can expect the Dolphins to do anything else defensively, considering how weak they are in that secondary.
Yeah, I really don't know how much of a difference it would have made. I just think it would have been nice to at least see the matchup, right? I mean, if you're playing Madden, I don't even know if the new games allow you to do it, but I remember back in the day, you could match up your wide receiver versus their QB1 and things like that. So I would absolutely want to have X on Stefon Diggs, but like you mentioned, man, it's not that simple. And there were other issues out there. And you got to talk about that defensive line, right? Again, not getting pressure up front outside of AVG. Bradley Chubb hasn't really done much. And I was even a little bit disappointed in Christian Wilkins' performance, right? I mean, just overall, man, I mean, I know we're being harsh, right? We're still 3-1. I know we could have so many things to be stoked about, but we've been, happy-go-lucky for the first 3 weeks. We may as well sit here and, I guess vent a little bit. But overall, man, I just want to see that defense do something, create pressure. You see the jokes on Twitter, right, man? Some people are asking for Josh Boyer back. It's that bad. And I mean, you just
stupid.
Yeah,
24 points per game last year. That's what they gave up. And something to follow too, the PFF grades. The Dolphins defense is like 17th, and their special teams is about 27th. So just something to kind of keep an eye on as the season goes. I'm telling you right now that defense is going to get better. You mentioned Brandon Jones playing 100% of the snaps. My God, man. I was so excited to see him come back, and the one thing he could do better than anyone was tackle. And he got a 27.9 grade. He missed 2 tackles, and it was always rough seeing him around to play because nothing good was happening. And then you look at someone who I thought had a great performance against the Denver Broncos, someone who was making a comeback, Emmanuel Ogbah. He ended up playing 17 snaps at a 58, was a complete ghost out there yet again. And there are just situations where you're rooting for these guys, hoping they can come out and make a statement. But you have someone like Jalen Phillips not playing, and Emmanuel Ogbah, again, 17 snaps. And I think it looks like he had a hurry. Like, there are things here where, something has to be unplugged somewhere. These players aren't this bad. It has to be something that just the scheme isn't clicking at or something, because this is just brutal looking at this.
Yeah, and I'm over here laughing because I am Latavius Murray led the team, and I had written down like, dude, what year was it? I had no idea. Latavius Murray is still playing. He led them in rushing yards. James Cook had a pretty nice day, but yeah, when Josh Allen has what 4 incompletions all day and has that 5 total touchdowns, I mean, you're not going to win a football game, no matter how awesome your offense looks. So yeah, man, I like that thing that you just need to plug it in, and this whole thing will start clicking. But damn, dude, this is not what we expected from this defense. 4 weeks into the season. But they looked pretty skeptical against the Chargers week 1 too, right? I mean, they were gashed on the ground.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. And there are concerns. I just don't think there are 48 points surrendered concerns. But yeah, man, I completely agree. There are challenges. I mean, but what do you change? I mean, we saw Duke Riley play. He had 2 missed tackles, I mean, in his 18 snaps, which is pretty impressive when you think about it. So what kind of changes do you make? We saw no Channing Tindall. We saw no Cam Smith. I'll tell you right now, I don't think either of those guys make much of a difference. And two, I just want to say, I mean, you got Buffalo, the perfect storm, the stars aligned. I mean, that stadium's absolutely nuts. I mean, again, here I am making excuses, but there is so many things that go into losing by 28 points where it's just not a simple fix type of stuff.
Yeah, I'm not sure I believe this, but I was gonna say my fix would be getting Jalen Phillips healthy, right? That would be my
That's a
fix.
great
But
fix.
again, yeah, I still don't know that it would have made a difference, though, right? I mean, if we're being completely honest, I think you put X on Stefon Diggs the whole game, and then you have Jalen Phillips out there. That's probably still not enough to win this game, no matter how much us fans might want to think. But overall, this defense, they want to play better, and you just hope to see it this week against the Giants.
Latavius Murray, just 4 carries, 32 yards, 8 yards a carry. The Dolphins actually locked up James Cook decently in the rushing attack. He did score a touchdown, but 2.4 yards per
He did have a lot
carry.
of fantasy points for any sickos that might have had him on their fantasy team. So
What made me a sicko was his 48-yard completion where David Long Jr. got absolutely cooked. He saw Josh Allen rolling out, and instead of keeping with his guy, he started chasing Josh Allen, and there goes, James Cook just sprinting down the sideline.
every time you talk about David Long, I just feel like you're attacking me because I was so stoked about him, and he's looked like I'm not gonna say he just hasn't looked the same as I thought he would this early, but again, this whole defense doesn't. So what is it, man? Figure out what it is, Jake. Fix that prong and plug that thing in and get it working again.
So
Blow
I
on it.
think what
Blow
we
on it.
tried after
I
the
meant to,
Chargers After the Chargers game, I think they unplugged it, but they didn't wait 10 seconds to replug in the modem. They just did a quick plug in, plug out, so it didn't completely refresh. So I'm going to have to send Vic Fangio a little message and say, hey, unplug it, count to 10, and then plug it back in, and then we'll get something going. Just some more numbers, Josh, to make you really sad before we wrap up here. 3 different Bills receivers averaged at least 20 yards of completion. Stefon Diggs, 6 for 120. Gabe Dave, 3 for 61. James Cook, that 1 for 48. Let me see here, Josh. Do you have anything else about this Buffalo offense? Because that pretty much sums it up. This felt like a good palate cleanser. I do think there are some concerns with this Dolphins defense, especially tackling, which was the issue against the Chargers. But man, sometimes you're going to get punched in the face, and sometimes you just got to take it, walk home, lick your wounds, come back the next week and stomp on some Giants, right? It's just kind of what you got to do sometimes.
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw Merrick's article in the Finsider, but like it started out with some days you're the pigeon, some days you're the statue, and I just started dying. The only last thing I wanted to do is I wrote down their drive charts, and it's just so sad to read it out. So maybe we'll turn the page with this. Bills touchdown, 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 punt, touchdown, field goal, end half, field goal, touchdown, touchdown, punt, end game. So they punted twice, and that's pretty much the story of this one.
Buffalo Bills touchdown drives, 8 plays, 10 plays, 5 plays, 2 plays, 4 plays, 2 plays. That's 4 touchdown drives of 5 plays or less. Miami's 3 touchdown drives, Joshua, 7 plays, 7 plays, 11 plays. Miami's 5 drives of 5 plays or less, 6 drives of 5 plays or less. Punt, fumble, punt, interception, downs. That's it. That pretty much sums up how great that Buffalo offense was. And hey, that next game, man, I'm looking forward to playing the Bills again in Miami. It's going to be something to keep our eyes on. But Joshua, we spent a lot of time talking about the negatives. Switching the page to the offense here, let's start with a positive. Achane, RB1. Achane, RB1. Excuse me, I apologize.
Achane. Yeah, how dare you? I'm glad you're the one that messed it up and not me because I do it. I mess the name up once every pod. I think he is at this point, Jake. I mean, you can see. I think Mostert's probably in the doghouse a little bit because he fumbled, had a couple issues out there.
Caught
Yeah,
one back, but that was insane.
too.
He had
Yeah.
like the
So
worst game since he got to Miami.
yeah, I mean, a lot of Dolphins players seem to in this one, to be completely honest. But I think he is, man. 8 carries, 101 yards, 12.6, 2 touchdowns. Again, he's a touchdown machine, and he's got the speed. You can see the vision out there. He's making an impact in the passing game. Again, my biggest thing is Jake. It's how did they not see this talented of a player on their unit where they were sitting there calling up Indianapolis and things like that? I mean, this dude's a stud, and I'm glad he's on the Miami Dolphins, and I'm interested to see how they use these backs moving forward. Salvin Ahmed was out there a little bit, right? Towards the end of the game, I thought I saw him. So we know he's back in there, but I think he supplanted him. And again, I think after Raheem Mostert's day, Achane, RB1.
So the Bills were going bananas early in that game, and it was almost Achane who was single-handedly kind of keeping them in the game with just his explosiveness. He ranks number 2 in the league of runs that go for either a touchdown or first down at 37%. So 1 out of 3 carries for him is either going to be a first down or a touchdown. That's pretty exciting. And I mean, Raheem Mostert probably had one of the worst performances of his entire career. 7 carries, 9 yards. And let me see here. I think he had a solid day as a receiver, 3 receptions on 5 targets for 36 yards. And to keep in mind, too, he ranks number 5 in the league in carries that go for either a touchdown or first down at 29%. Those stats come from Lord Reeves on Twitter. Be sure to give him a follow. Really great analytics guy. Man, it is a great 1-2 punch, but Devon Achane just leaves me speechless. So far this year, 27 carries, 309 yards, 6 total touchdowns. The only issue I have, and I don't know if this is really how it goes, but when you look at this Dolphins offense, and as we go through punt, fumble, punt, interception, downs, drives like that, Josh, I'm just curious to get your thoughts because Devon Achane, 5 targets and another 8 carries. That's 13 touches. Dude, I thought Jalen Waddle was open all game long. I can't believe he was targeted 5 times. He caught 4 for 46 yards. He was targeted 4 times. A ball was tipped and he caught it. That was great from him. But the Bills defense did such a good job of strangling the Dolphins offense outside of Achane. I was just curious, where was Jalen Waddle? That's someone I thought that could be unlocked in a game against Buffalo where everybody's staring at Tyreek. You see what Achane can do. You see what Mostert can do. I was left speechless wondering where Waddle was.
Yeah, and I think there were maybe some plays that were open. I mean, I honestly went back and watched a little bit of it, but I just today was just an emo day for me. But you would wanted to see him get more involved, right? I mean, I think we were both kind of predicting he'd score a touchdown. I know I had him starting fantasy. I thought he was going to have a big day, but I'm looking at that, Jake. And to your point, I mean, when Braxton Berrios has the most targets in your receiving core, I mean, is that not the issue right there? I mean, I don't know what Buffalo was doing precisely. I mean, again, we talked about how good those linebackers were. I believe Terrell Bernard actually had a pick. We kind of forecasted some of what was going to happen, right? We talked about that errant interception that was bound to happen. We talked about, I brought up that New Orleans game, which I shouldn't have, but I just wish that they got more involved because that's your bread and butter, man. The reason you're winning games, the reason you're putting up video game numbers is because you're getting Tyreek Hill to football. You know, you're targeting Jalen Waddle when he's back and healthy. So I'm interested to see the way the Dolphins decide to change things because I think even Mike McDaniel alluded to it. The Bills, they changed their game plan throughout the game. The Dolphins kind of did not, and it bit him in the butt. So Tua looked decent though, right? I mean, there was no problems there other than that interception. I mean, he went out there and 25-35 for 282 yards. I mean, he had a solid game.
Yeah, definitely thought he was solid. There are a couple of times where, strangely enough, he held onto the ball too long, but that's exactly what Buffalo's game plan was to do. Tua was actually sacked 4 times on the day, and you mentioned him earlier, man, but I think the biggest question was asked on Twitter by our friend Kat, and he simply put it, man, the Dolphins better get an absolute legend for the 6th round pick they got in return for Dan Feeney because Liam Eichenberg was absolutely brutal at center for most of the day.
Yeah, I'm dying laughing because I just remember now I went on like a Liam Eichenberg rant, and then is that when I went to the defense and started talking? Is that okay?
You were
Yeah,
so sick of the offense.
That's the Dory Bray, man. I'm sorry. Yeah, dude, that offensive line was just atrocious, and you saw you see the picture going around. I saw the way that Liam Eichenberg was like spread out doing a split, and he almost looked exactly like the wishbone man that comes in the turkey that you like break to see what happens. So he was on skates. I mean, that's what kind of led to the Teron Armstead injury, which now he's out against the Giants. So that entire offensive line was kind of spinning out of control. But Liam Eichenberg, in my notes, I just had get him the get him off my team. I mean, it was much worse than that, but dude, get him off my team. I don't even know that I want him as a reasonable backup, but for 3 weeks we sat here and talked about, everyone was posting the Chris Greer thing about him saying about the offensive line and how, that we were more worried about than him, and how Chris Greer is right. I don't know if that's true at this point, because if this was your backup plan at center, that's just a terrible idea, right?
Yeah, the move trading Dan Feeney just seems like the silliest move.
He could play like everywhere. He was like a legit Swiss Army knife, and they let him go.
No, I tend to be a little on the nicer side, Josh. Do you feel like Liam Eichenberg might have looked a little better if someone like Teron Armstead doesn't get hurt? He actually got rolled up middle of the game, and we haven't mentioned it yet, but Teron Armstead, Mike McDaniel said he'll be out weeks, not days. So they're just going to spend a couple days just wrapping the bubble wrap around him, and then from there we'll just kind of take it as we go. But man, that kind of seemed like when the offensive line really fell apart after Armstead played about 30% of the snaps or so.
Yeah, I haven't seen the like I said, I was trying to stay off of stuff today. I didn't hear that quote. That just I just put my head down like, son of a, like, that's the first time I'm hearing about it. My heart broke a little bit. So everyone's down on him, right? But when Teron Armstead's not in that lineup, it's much different, despite how good Kendall Lamb has looked. So to your point, Jake, maybe that's what it was. I know that Liam Eichenberg hasn't really played much at center. He took some reps when Connor Williams was out during training camp, but to Connor Williams' point, I mean, is this not the game you show them? This is why I need to get paid. This is why you should pay me right now so I can be happy. But he wasn't out because of that, anything to do with that, right? He was legitimately hurt.
Yeah, Mike McDaniel came out following the game, and he did say that both Connor Williams and Jalen Phillips were very close to playing, headed in the right direction, but they just weren't able to make it. So that kind of gives you the idea that they will be active next Sunday. And God, I don't think anyone should ever complain about Connor Williams maybe beef in one snack. You spent a first-round pick on Tua. You spent a 5th overall pick on Tua. You're not going to have a perfect offense. Tua can mask some difficulties, and I think he does a great job. I mean, there was Eichenberg sent him a ground ball, I think, at one point yesterday, and he actually did a great job of picking it up, and I think it was a bubble screen to Jalen Waddle. It was batted down, but Tua still, just how quickly he was able to get the ball off the ground and throw it out there. I mean, the snaps are a concern, but I think Tua does a great job at maybe masking that, and sometimes every team's going to have those issues, and you got to be able to kind of work around them.
Yeah, for sure. And not to jump down Liam Eichenberg's throat again, but he did have that illegal, he was like downfield, illegal man downfield in that Waddle touchdown, which, I mean, it seemed like the Dolphins were starting to get a little bit of momentum to try to climb back into this thing. So, yeah, man, I hope that offensive line can get together. And like you mentioned, Tua does have the ability to mask some of that, but he was under duress. And it was just Buffalo really bringing 4 up front, but they had a damn good 4 up front.
Have you seen the movie Madagascar?
I have, but I mean, you can't ask me questions about
is
it.
Is
there like a giraffe in it?
Is there I'm thinking of the little squirrel guy that got a little famous. You know what I'm talking about? He just kind of like
that's
talks
the Ice Age one where he goes after the nut.
Yes, the Ice Age squirrel. Sorry, that as you can see this reference.
It's all the same, basically.
Is that Ice Age squirrel? Is there a scene in the first one where there's like this big snowball avalanche coming down and he's trying to hold it up all by himself?
I think so. Yeah.
Can you put Liam Eichenberg on that?
Man,
Liam Eichenberg picture.
That's it.
Like, he literally, the way his legs are giving out, it's like he's holding a snowball that's about to destroy an entire village.
Oh man.
I feel that. I mean, he was put in a tough situation. Ed Oliver is an absolute monster. They have a fantastic pass rush. Sean McDermott is an awesome coach, but that's why we kind of got to laugh about Eichenberg, right? You got to laugh so we don't cry. And if it means he's Sid, I think, because I want to call the squirrel Sid, but I feel like there was actually someone else named Sid in the movie who had like a lisp, I think.
Yeah. Sid was like the guy with like the eyes on the side of it. I don't know what exactly he was, but
2 big teeth coming at it, like
sharp,
like canine type.
You know a lot more than you lead on.
That's how you got to go about things. That is how you got to go about it. And to go back to the point I had earlier about the idea of maybe crowd played a role in this, the Dolphins, 8 penalties for 98 yards. The Buffalo Bills, 4 for 20. That's very nice. Dolphins in the red zone, 3 for 4. Bills, 5 for 6. There are just little things like that, man, where it just really piles up. Dolphins on 3rd down, 3 for 10. Bills, 5 for 10. The biggest difference, man, 4th down efficiency, 0 for 3. So let me ask you this. Let me put it this way. What's one thing we saw from the Bills game that we're not going to see again?
Hopefully, I mean, in some of those short yard and
I thought you were gonna say Liam Eichenberg at center.
oh man, that would have been good. We're talking offensively, right? I was just gonna bring up how in some of those short yardage situations, they should have just ran that damn thing right up the middle. And I mean, I feel like Mike McDaniel realized that he should have done that in some instances, and that he also abandoned the run earlier than he expected. But I like your answer better, Liam Eichenberg, please.
If I had to pick one thing we won't see again, one, Braxton Berrios leading the team in targets. To be fair, though, he caught all 6 of the targets that came his way and a touchdown, and he had some great clutch catches. Alec Ingold, man, that's another player. I thought they kind of waited a little too long to get involved in the game. I think when they're playing that 2 safety deep look, you can really lean on someone like Alec Ingold. I don't know, maybe it was following that Denver game, the the plays where it was both Mostert and Achane on the field together. Worked so well. So I wonder if maybe that kind of played into Mike McDaniel using Alec Ingold a little less and maybe going like all speed. And to bring up my point from last week, guys, did the Dolphins have too much speed? Did they need to go a little slower and that could have been a difference maker?
That's a question. That's an answer I won't have. I don't think the Dolphins are ever going to show us that, right? They're all about that speed.
But overall, man, I didn't think there was anything that the Bills did that was like game changing against this Dolphins offense. I saw nothing that really made me feel like this isn't fixable. Like I said before, sometimes you get just punched in the face, you deal with it, and you're kind of stuck moving on with the group. This might be me asking a question because we do too much of podcasting. River Craycraft, would he being on the field change anything? No, nothing at all.
I'm sorry. I love you, River Craycraft, but I don't know that I can say that. Maybe Robbie Chosen. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, man. I don't know what the offense could have done other than having a fully healthy. If Connor Williams was out there, maybe things might have been a little different. I mean, I do think Liam Eichenberg was that bad, but I feel like the entire offensive line, like you mentioned, kind of crumbled when Teron Armstead went out. I mean, I think Mike McDaniel even kind of alluded to things kind of going down after. I feel like that's what he's referring to, and then everything kind of snowballed out of control. So I just hope these two teams at some point can play healthy, right? I know Bills fans were complaining and using the excuse before the game about Jordan Poyer being out, but I mean, you mentioned what could be different. Deshaun Elliott, Jalen Phillips, Connor Williams, Teron Armstead. I mean, this game might have looked a little bit different. Yeah. So hopefully that's what happens in the next meeting, but don't be too down, Dolphin fans. I know that was an absolute butt whooping after, the high we had. Now we kind of hit a low, but you're still 3-1. We got the Giants, we got the Panthers, and then we got the Eagles. So better days are ahead. Or like you said, maybe darker days.
It really could go either way. Josh, before we wrap up here, I'm curious to get your thoughts. If you could add one position player to this team, I think center might kind of skew this one way, but if you were Chris Greer and you had to go out and make one addition this week, what position would you be looking at?
You said other than center, right? Because center's kind of an obvious. Because I'd say linebacker, man. We need some middle linebacker help. I've been saying that a lot of us have wanted that, but I don't know who you really bring in. I mean, I don't know that there's anybody that really sticks out there. I know we all kind of are high on Reuben Foster, but Reuben Foster is probably not helping that what we just witnessed.
He ain't stopping MVP Josh Allen. Nobody's like that. That's part of
that was like his best game all year. I mean, I kept saying about the Madden curse. I mean, right there, he looked like 99 in Madden. We just couldn't do anything. It just sucks though because it's always Josh Allen and that damn, and they're doing the little, they're rubbing it in, and damn it, I can't wait till we meet him again.
January 7th, the final game of the season. That one will be exciting. Yeah, dude, there are just situations where they heard it all week. I mean, after they lost in week 1 to the Jets, the whole idea of the Buffalo Bills, the window was closing. Like we talked about, this team wanted to come out and prove something, and what better team to do it than the team that just scored 70 points. One final note, Josh, and this is the position I think I would add. Robbie Chosen was targeted just once, and it was intercepted. I don't know if he really fits what the Dolphins are doing here, being out on the field as much as he is. I do wonder. The speed's awesome, but man, even going back to the Kunga line last week, I don't know if he fits in with just how everything operates.
So what are you thinking, Jarvis Landry? I know he's out there. You talking about Jarvis? I saw some people tweeting that bring him home. He can block. He can do really good at blocking, right? He could be the literal Debo that we need.
I dig Jarvis Landry as a blocker. I love Jarvis.
We'd all dig him, right? We'd be all about that.
And don't get me wrong here. Jarvis Landry
Chase
is very
Claypool. I'm sorry. Yeah, you see everything going on with him. That was a joke. Everybody calm down. Till it happens. Then you say Houtz had it first. But calm down.
Little therapy session to wrap up here. Keep in mind the Dolphins are still first in the NFL in points scored. And they're also just one of 4 teams in the AFC. Excuse me, one of 3 teams in the AFC with 4 wins. So something I just completely butchered that. There are 4 teams in the AFC with 3 wins. The Dolphins are one of them. Bills are beating me up over here too, man. I can't even do a stat right. That is it. That is all the time we have. We will be coming back with content throughout the week as the Miami Dolphins try to get back on track against the New York Giants. We will have you covered every day until then. But that is all we have for today for another Dolphins podcast. Thank you all so much for joining us. And until next time, fins up.
Fins up.